Let's understand the rules to convert direct speech to indirect speech. The first one, according to the reporting verb. Let's look at the conversion rule as per the reporting verb. When the reporting verb is in past tense, then any other verb present in the sentence will also be changed to past tense. So, here the statement says, he said I am unwell, right? So, your said is the reporting verb or the principal verb, and that is in past tense, while the other verb is in present tense. That present tense verb will also be changed to past tense in indirect speech. That statement will become, he said he was unwell, or you could also include the word that. He said that he was unwell. That's why you have the word that in brackets to imply it may or it may not be used. Either way, it is correct. But if the reporting verb is in present or in future tense, then the tenses of the direct speech will not change. Here, the reporting verb is in present and this is the future tense. So the direct statement is, he says I am unwell. It will become, he says he is unwell. Or if he says, he will say I am unwell, will turn to he will say he is unwell. Okay. Next. If the tense in indirect speech is not changed, the tense in the indirect speech is not changed if the words within the quotation marks talk of a universal truth or habitual action, something that is of general truth. Such words, the tense does not change. The direct speech is, they said we cannot live without water. You only have to remove the quotation marks and change the phrase or the statement accordingly. They said that we cannot live without water. That all these rules were with regards to your reporting verb. Now let's look at conversion rules in for present tense. So if it is in present tense, simple present, it will simply be converted to simple past in order to make it into indirect speech. The example. Direct speech, it says, I am happy, she said. It will turn into, she said that she was happy. You are reporting, right? So you include the word that. That's how you change. Simple present am will turn into was. She was happy. When in present continuous change, it changes to past continuous. So present continuous changes to past continuous. The direct statement says, I am reading a book. He explained. The indirect statement will be, he explained that he was reading a book. So past continuous. Present continuous to past continuous. Present perfect changes to past perfect. The statement says, she said he has finished his food. It will change to, she said that he had finished his food. So present perfect will change into past perfect. If it is in present perfect continuous, it would change to past perfect continuous. I've been to Gujarat, he told me. The indirect statement would be, he told me that he had been to Gujarat. Past perfect continuous. Let's look at the rules for past and future tense. If it is in simple past, it will change to past perfect. So the indirect statement says, he said Ira arrived on Monday. The indirect statement would become, he said that Ira had arrived on Monday. Right? Simple past changes to past perfect. past continuous will change to past perfect continuous. The direct statement is, we were living in Goa, they told me. So the indirect statement would be, they told me that they had been living in Goa. So if the verb's in past perfect, it would always remain in past perfect. But if it's in past continuous, it will change to past perfect. But if it's in past perfect itself, it will not change. It will remain the same. Example, the direct statement, I had just turned out the light, he explained. Indirect, he explained that he had just turned out the light. Let's look at future tenses. So if it is in future, you would change it to present conditional. Direct speech. He said, I will be in Kolkata tomorrow. It will change to, he said that he would be in Kolkata the next day. Future continuous changes to conditional continuous. She said, I'll be using the car next Friday. The statement will become, she said that she would be using the car next Friday. Let's look at modals. So can will always change to could from direct to indirect speech. The statement says, he said, I can swim. The indirect statement will become, he said that he could swim. May would change to might. So if the direct statement says, he said I may buy a house, the indirect statement would become, he said that he might buy a house. The modal verb must will change to either had to or would have to accordingly. So you would say, he said I must work hard. The indirect statement will become, he said that he had he said that I had to work hard. I'm sorry. No. This person is talking about himself, so it will not change. It will be the same. So if the statement says he said I must work hard, then the indirect statement will also be he said that he had to work hard, because the person speaking is talking about himself, the first person I, right? For the following modals, you do not change. They'll always be the same for would, could, might, should, and ought to. In such cases, it'll always be the same. For example, if the direct statement says, I should face the challenge, the indirect statement would be, he said that he should face the challenge. Let's try a few more examples here for the other modal verbs. For the modal verb would, right? You can say, they said we would apply for a visa. So you could change the statement to they said that they said that they would apply for a visa. For the modal verb could, let's say the direct statement is, he said, I could run faster. So the indirect speech will become, he said that he could run faster. So it remains the same. It does not change. John said, I might meet him. John said that he might meet him. So for modal words would, could, might, should, and ought to, you do not change the tense. But for can, may, and must, they are changed into following. Right? So if it is can, that's when it will change to could. But if it's already in could, you will not change it. Let's look at how to convert interrogative sentences. What are interrogative sentences? These are questions. So if the reporting verb is said or said to, it will change to asked or inquired or demanded. So the statement is, he said to me What are you doing? The indirect statement will become, he asked me what I was doing. If the sentence begins with an auxiliary verb, it's a helping verb, then the joining clause should be either if or whether. So the statement is, he said, will you come for the meeting? The indirect statement will become, he asked them whether they would come for the meeting. Right? For statements that begin with auxiliary verbs, the joining clause should be if or whether, either of them, either this or that. But if it has the reporting verb said or said to me, it will be changed to either asked, enquired or demanded. You could use whichever appropriately. Let's look at sentences, questionable sentences that begin with WH. Right? If sentences begin with the WH questions like who, what, why, then no conjunction is used, as the question word itself acts as a joining clause. For example, where do you live? Asked the girl. Indirect statement will be, the girl inquired where I lived. Right? It's in present tense, so it will turn to past tense. The girl inquired where I live. Let's look at commands, requests, exclamations. Right? These are all imperative sentences. For commands and requests, indirect speech is introduced by some word like ordered, requested, advised and suggested. Right? So for words like those, and then for negative words you would use forbid or forbade. In plural form it will be forbids. And the imperative mood is changed into its infinitive form. You would say, Rafiq said to Ahmad, go away. It will be, Rafiq ordered Ahmad to go away. If the direct statement is, he said to her, please wait. You would say, he requested her to wait. For exclamations and wishes, indirect speech is introduced by words like grief, sorrow, happiness or applauding. In such cases, exclamatory sentences changes into assertive sentence and the interjections are removed. If the statement says, he said, alas, I am undone, the indirect statement would become, he exclaimed sadly that he was broke.